This is the Grief Talk Podcast with Vonne Solis, helping you heal after loss and life's hardest hits. Welcome to part 2 of my conversation with Vickie Menendez. In this episode, we talk Vickie's son Wesley's contract, drug addiction, the loss of Vonne's daughter to suicide, Vickie's continuing healing journey after the loss of her 4th child, her son Jesse, just 12 days after Crystal's passing in February 2023, and the resources Vickie offers as a transformational guide and author of Crystal's Butterfly Effect. We're going to turn to Jesse and then we're going to turn to self-love. But I have to say this, as you were talking right now, and as I've experienced for 20 years, my daughter started coming to me within hours of her passing. Hours. And that has never stopped. And as I mentioned earlier, she now has the ability, or let me put it this way, her ability to leave things in the physical for me. I am open to receiving them. We have to be open to this stuff. But for many, many years, it was on the astral level and dreaming. And this, they only come as just like you said, it's an absolute purity that we really can only experience with them. I can't experience with another human being. I can't experience it, only with her. And nobody else that's passed away comes to me like she does. So she doesn't come to me that way so much. And so moving this into this transition of understanding that we can live multiple timelines at a time in one incarnation. So we bring bits of, like you were talking earlier, there's the DNA that never leaves us of our children and our relationships. So if you look at other incarnations where you've had something to work out and you're maybe finessing it or completing it in this life because you've got the awareness to do that. That's what's happening with me. So I'm living 2 other lifetimes at the same time that we were in this one together, where there was death of her and me, the parent, and really trying to get the spiritual perfection of what I know this life can be, despite the loss and tragedy that many people get stuck in. And I know, Vickie, that's where you're going with your life too, based on what I read in your book. So here's the thing. When you were talking about this, and it struck me that love that we see them as, but that's what we are too. And most people are missing that. They don't even have an nth of it. And by the way, I will just say, the struggle to love yourself, I don't believe there can be any harsher way to do this than through tragic loss. And usually in our world anyway, our Western world, and maybe all around the world, I don't know how they feel in other cultures about losing a child, but certainly in our culture, this is the worst thing people can imagine happening to them. Would you agree with that? I've heard it over and over and over for 20 years. So imagine taking that and going, wow. So my moment with you was, wow, I'm really supposed to feel and respect myself as that same love sitting here, no matter how bad I think I've been or this and that. Do you want to speak to that? Do you feel that way?
Yeah. And now when we lose someone and we're deep in grief, if we are reflections of what we project, here in those lower level emotions, then that's what's going to be reflecting us. So it's going to be hard for us to feel that connection to now.
Agreed.
So if we can work our way back up to love and joy again, then we can feel them more. And each of his secret is inviting them in. They're just saying, hey, I'm here. Invite me in.
Yes.
One of the rules is that you have to allow them to come into your space. They're waiting to come in and be a part of your lives, but you have to say, I want included. Please come visit me, however you want to put it. But you have to invite them in. And sometimes we feel like it's not possible.
Yes.
Not thinking of those terms. And so they're staying there like this.
Yes,
There's way down here, and they're up here just saying, I'm here.
I agree. I
Already.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And it can take, the more that you get to experience your child as infinity. I just love, like, love and infinite, as that energy. We can still, no matter how many times and how many years these amazing experiences have happened, I can still, like, what? She just did it the other day when we took our son to the airport, pulled the keys out of the ignition, put the car in park, pull the keys out of the ignition. And guess what? That ignition dinged and dinged and dinged and dinged as if we had left them in the car. And I was like freaking out. What's wrong with the car? What's wrong with the car? And there's my son. I'm trying to say goodbye to him and I'm preoccupied with the dinging. And so I feel I missed a moment saying goodbye to my son because he's just kind of like, see ya. I mean, I gave him a hug and stuff. But I get in the car and then it wasn't until maybe a few hours later I realized that might have been Janaea saying goodbye. It's like that. And 20 years, and yet I still get sort of fooled by it. And so do you experience any of your kids? I know you've seen them in symbolically. Have you had experiences from one or more of your children in afterlife that are so present in your physical space that you just can go, oh, it's them? Or do you still doubt some of these visits from them?
Um, I think mine are more visual, but there are times when I feel like I wrote this article about Wesley and his art because I really feel like that people need to see his art. Mhm. And, um, and so I was read through this article and it was emotional and I felt Wesley come in and then just say, Mom, this is part of our contract. This message is supposed to not only speak to your parents of addicts, but to be a warning to the addict themselves that they still have time to get the other side of this addiction and to be an inspiration to other addicts that yes, you can do this, you can get on the other side of it. For him, like he could be standing on stage saying, I almost died of an overdose, but he didn't. But for me, I can say my son died of an overdose. I think that's a much more profound message to an addict sitting there because I'm not, it's not my son. He's standing up there saying, I almost died. It's me saying my son did die. So that warning is maybe a little bit more profound for the addict, my story about how he had clerks laid out. He had plans that day. He didn't plan on overdosing. And no addict does. No addict, goes to shoot up or do whatever they're doing, thinking that they're going to overdose that day.
Is there a stigma in the drug addicted world and losing your child to drug addiction like there is in suicide?
Well, I know this wasn't suicide.
No, but I just meant the stigma. We have stigma in suicide, so we don't jump. We don't. Like, how do I want to say this? Well, I was very vocal from 20 years ago about saying my daughter died from by suicide. But today, 20 years later, well, there's a little bit more kind of like acceptance of it. It's kind of still like, oh, we're not proud of it really. There can be some shame, and there can be some shame attached to it still. Do you feel like when you lose a child to drug addiction, there's any shame attached to it, or it's seen and accepted as maybe other things that you don't agree with, like say mental health issues or stuff like that? I'm just wondering if there's any stigma attached to it for you as a bereaved mom.
Well, I mean, I think some people judge the situation, especially if it's somebody that thought, oh, well, that's all he's about, is, well, they didn't see past the addiction.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, well, some people might say good riddance to an addict that couldn't get on the other side of it. What kind of life would they have need, that kind of thing. But he was so brilliant, and he didn't even know just what feedback to offer the world.
Mm.
And it's,
How old was he when he passed?
he's 33.
33. Yeah. Yeah. I know. I'm just pausing a moment here because an example about the stigma would be we didn't do an obituary in the newspaper. Because what was I going to say? And you will almost never, for years and years and years, I read obituaries, okay? And I would skim through and see if it was a younger person, and never, ever, ever would you hear the truth that someone had passed from a suicide. It would just be a sudden passing or something. So anyway, we're getting better, and part of the work I do, it's not all of the work, but part of the work I do is awareness. And so as that to you, I just wanted to, for anyone, again, the viewer, or listener, to just think about this, that, drug addiction, a drug overdose, a suicide does not necessarily mean our kids were mentally ill or this or that. And just no judgment, please, people. No judgment if it hasn't happened to you and you're not walking in our shoes. I really respect our children, I believe, for leaving on their terms. So as part of a spiritual practice, Vickie, I believe that they contracted to come here and do exactly what they did. And there are two specific times my daughter could have died much younger than she did, but I swear she didn't. And one time I swear the angels lifted her from getting hit by a car when she was like 9 years old, because it wasn't time for me to learn the lessons from that death. I would have missed out on it.
Probably was supposed to go out a different way,
But she went at 22, just so there can be different exit points and things. But the point I'm making, not to get into that, is just that I really respect how our children go without judgment. They have gone, period. And that, for me, has been a huge part of my healing and acceptance of the experience, because I think part of the healing, and we're going to get to that now, is accepting the experience. I do just want you to speak about Jessie a little bit, because as if Crystal wasn't enough, then Jessie, you write about self-love as the transformative force that could heal not only our wounds, but also the wounds of the world. And so to have that segue for you, kind of what happened in your journey after the loss of then Jessie, 12 days after Crystal, because this is really the lady who's sitting in front of all of us today. This is you today. And what for others will be absolutely unimaginable tragedy. And here you are standing up to it, Vickie, owning it and teaching and helping others and supporting others and looking beautiful doing it. Like, come on.
Well, I feel like that when I help someone else feel better, just a little bit better than they did the day before, it feels a little part of my heart, because it's like we were talking earlier, there isn't a destination deal. We spend a lifetime, like healing layer after layer after layer. And sometimes it can be from this lifetime, things that are generationally imprinted or that you bring in from previous lifetimes. There's just all kinds of stuff that we're working through. And as our awareness raises, I think our soul gets us at the next layer. And that's what earlier I was saying, I was talking about when sometimes we feel like we take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell people that is a part of the healing journey, is that some days you feel like your wings are out, you're created, you're happy, take on the world, and then the next minute, hour, day, week, you can be back in the pre-footing again. I mean, for one reason, and wondering, oh, how did this happen? How am I back here again? And I think that it is our soul is saying, okay, you can handle this, and they'll give you just what you can handle at the moment. And can you need it that way? Can you say, oh, okay, I know what this is. So this is giving me an opportunity to heal something and make more space in my body for the good stuff, for the love, joy, all of that stuff. For if we're like taking care of something we've been watching our body for years, then we should be happy that we're in a place where we can understand what's going on, and you can say, okay, I know how to do this. I know how to meet up with my emotions. I know how to process them. So it becomes easier and easier and easier as you do with work. It doesn't have to be positive. And a lot of people go into like the healing journey thinking that they're going to be upset and cry and all of that stuff all the time. But I don't find it's like that anymore. I find that it can be graceful. It can be just knowing that once you get to the other side of like working out that next layer of how light you feel, how much more joy you feel in your heart, how much love that you can and appreciate yourself and show gratitude for yourself that you're picking up the friggin' work to begin with.
Yes, yes. I was going to say healing requires an awful lot from us. Holy smoly. And what you just said,
It does not have to be hard because that is a definition that you give it. And our life is based on whatever meaning we give to it. So are we gonna make it hard, or are we going to make it graceful and easy and welcomed? Because that stuff is going to come up. Yeah. You welcome it and embrace it and work through it. Or are we going to say, no, not that again? I can't do it.
yeah, no, I agree. So I'll sort of, so when I say it requires a lot from us, it does require commitment. It requires us to be open. It requires us to be accepting, non-judgmental of ourselves. And I really want to turn to this piece about self-love, because what I'm going to take from speaking with you, Vickie, is, and because I've been at this for quite a long time myself, so I love what you say, and I agree with you 100%. It's always changing.
And I do want to actually say a no to is it Kintsugi? Kintsugi,
Kintsugi, we have to talk about that,
where it's the I'm going to let you explain it,
what that is, because that was so beautiful for me, and I'll tell you why. Because and I'll give you a little hint, folks, it's to do with being broken. And no disrespect to the therapist I was seeing at the time, but that therapist did not want to allow me to feel broken. And this was about 13 years ago. And so I was in my grief at that point for about maybe 7 years. And I was very upset about that. They wanted me to see myself as changed. But we are kind of broken when we lose a child or another significant loss. We're broken. So I do want you to talk about the self-love piece. But I do want to say, is there anything you want to say about, before we get to that, about what more did Jesse's passing teach you? Like, did it elevate you, like, or did it solidify something that you had taken away from Crystals? It happened so soon. Was it a pact between them? Like, I mean, that's kind of hard for you to maybe answer. How did it impact you spiritually and for the healing part of it?
When I got the phone call in the middle of the grocery store, the police were trying to identify his body.
Yeah.
Eager and drowning full. And it was so shocking. I couldn't believe what I was near. Yeah, I couldn't believe that they were telling me what they were telling me over the phone. And in the midst of my heart just kind of shattering, something else came in. It was like And this was over, I can't say that everything came through all at once, but it kind of did. It made its awareness there that all of this was in preparation for what I'm supposed to be doing right now. It is a soul contact that I have with all of my children for them to give me these experiences. And just recently, I'll say a couple months ago, I realized that all of my kids went out exactly the way they would have wanted to go out. Wesley would have wanted to go out dramatically. Crystal would have wanted to take her time.
Yeah.
Esty would have wanted for it to be shocking. And all three of them went out exactly the way they were supposed to. But because I had the awareness around the contracts, I knew that if this happened 12 days later, there's going to be something much bigger than
Yes.
way beyond anything I can even comprehend.
Exactly.
And I just needed to be open for those messages to come through. And I was just getting download after download after download of what this all meant, why all of this happened, and it did. And when you speak about all of the stuff needing together, it was like it created this beautiful mosaic. And one thing that somebody told me while I was in the hospital with my daughter, a friend of mine said he talked with this particular spiritual guy, and she might be able to give you some insight. So as I was talking to her, she said, in this lifetime, I really feel intuitively that you're supposed to be the seeking beauty from depth. And when she said that, I was like, well, okay, you just said something that hit me really like in the heart. Like I was like, oh my gosh, that is what I'm supposed to be doing, is seeing the beauty in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
As if you can see a transition as being beautiful instead of it being tragic, isn't that lifting them up rather than making it this horrible moment that you never want to think of again or whatever? If you can think about them just transitioning in this beautiful way.
Well, they are. And so as you're so what is coming to me while you're speaking is that if we could make our grief really, or the loss about them and not us, it would really do wonders to help us not suffer. And one of my big things was to understand more in the Buddhist realm that suffering isn't an illusion. And it's kind of all works together however we get it. So we don't need to suffer. We can certainly choose it, but we do not need to stay there. And then understanding, and if you're not out there on a world stage, if you're not writing books, if you're not teaching, coaching, doing any of the things that, some of us are out there doing at different levels, if you could just find this for yourself, this is where we turn to the self-love piece. And let's talk a little bit about Kintsugi. Tell us that and how that people can see themselves in a new way that helps to maybe help them love themselves more.
Kintsugi is the art, the Japanese art of repairing a broken body.
Right.
I thought of this analogy for the testing bonds, relationships in the aftermath of loss. Because anytime you have a loss in a family, it affects everyone. And it could affect my husband and I, we've been together for 31 years. He's not the children. He's not the father of these children, the boss. Yeah, I mean, he's so much with you. I mean, he might as well have been through that. Like he went through everything I went through with them as they grew up. And so our relationship was really tested because when you're in those lower level emotions, when you're in that deep grief, then you're met with those types of emotions, right? because everything is reflected back in the same level of frequency. So if you're in a lower level frequency, then that's what you're going to be, that's what's going to be reflected back to you. So you bring up all of the resentments you might have toward members or toward their husband or toward somebody else, because that's where you are. You're down there in the dirt, like all them around. And that's what you're in that rift. And that's the reason it's so important for you to get up there and into the higher level frequencies, because then you're reflecting more positive things. You're reflecting love and joy, all of that, instead of all of the guilt, the shame, the judgment, all of the stuff down there. Because if we are reflected, everything is reflected back to us, what we're projecting, then there you go. If you're way down there with throwing judgments and feeling shame about certain things that make you be weren't a good parent, or you were a great parent, but like there's always going to be those thoughts running around in your mind of what you could have done differently.
Correct.
But that's what you're going to be met with. So in relationships, if you're down there digging in the dirt, then you're going to be calling out all of the things that have happened throughout your life with somebody. Because I don't know anybody that's had a perfect relationship. You're going to have fights. You're going to have things that you have resentment for the other person for, I mean, things happen throughout the years, especially if you've been with me for a long time. So I found that when I was in my deepest grief was when all of those resentments that I had toward my husband that typically wouldn't even surface came back. They came back up to the surface. But when it comes to Kintsugi, I use quotes in my book a lot.
Yeah.
And the quotes kind of help me to kind of get in the energy of what I wanted that chapter to be about. It says, Kintsugi is a Japanese pottery technique. When something breaks, like a vase, they glue it back together with melted gold. Instead of making the cracks invisible, they make them beautiful. To celebrate the history of the object, what it's been through. And I was just thinking of us like that. My heart full of gold veins instead of cracks. So the way they will fit names, they take and make each crack in a bowl of top so that you can see it, so that you can see what the object has been through. And I just thought that was the most beautiful analogy to use, because when you're broken, I like to say, I kind of thought of what you said, broken earlier, you're changed forever. What the things that we go through, they do change us forever. And I don't use broken any more than I have to, because I think we're just different. It changes us, but it would change us so that we're just more enlightened. We're more aware and more conscious of the life that's going on around us. Like my son, I'm more present with him now, the one that I have here. I'm more present with my husband, who I love more than I did before.
That's nice. I want to say two things about that. So for me, I straight up, I'm just going to say, I believe we can all feel whatever way we need to feel. Case closed. You want to feel it, you feel it, babe. So I did feel very broken. I no longer feel broken, but by not, and so it changed. That's a given. But I didn't want to, for me, skim over the parts of a broken heart. I actually believe my mom died from a broken heart.
Oh, yeah. You have a broken heart? I'll say it.
And again, that would have piled on generational trauma. So I just want to finish about the being broken. So for me, it was very important that I felt someone was hearing me, because, and now I have to tell you about this as well. So, I'm married to a man that was not the father of my daughter. Her biological father died 5-6 years after her. Anyway, the issue of step parenting and step parent grief is one that's largely, I don't think, addressed, and it gets super complicated. In our case, my husband has 3 children, 2 from his first marriage and 1 we have together, our son, whom we absolutely adore. But there is a difference in the bereavement, and he was with me from the time my daughter was 7. So like you, your husband was with you for many of the years of your children. And, but there was still, and my sister helped me with this because over many years, and we've been together married 34, there were many years that I was very angry that he wasn't feeling what I was feeling, because I saw, and I met many bereaved parents who were biological parents of a child that they lost, and they seemed to grieve the same kind of thing. They got each other, and as painful and awful as it was, those that stayed together, it's just there wasn't a barrier between them. And at least not the people I met. So I did feel that very strongly there was. So one day my sister said to me about 3 years ago, she goes, he's not a bereaved dad. And that stopped me in my tracks because it was true. He might have been a bereaved stepdad, but he still had his 3 kids, right? And that whole part of my incarnation gone with my daughter, her father, end of story. It was just gone with the dying of my daughter, her father, and an end of a lineage, really. So it takes a lot for us as the spouse and the mom, unless it's a reverse situation, to find space in our heart. And it was pretty easy for me to choose family with the family I do have, and my son, whom I love dearly, right? Just like you love your boy and your husband, but it has been fraught with challenges. So I just wanted to have a quick nod to that for people who might be in a similar situation,
I mean, and that's part of learning how to deal and how to deal with and meet your emotions. You feel them fully. And sometimes by stuffing them in and just suppressing or repressing them, then that's what can manifest in so many different ways. But yes, if you they go and cry for 2 hours, they'll cry for 2 hours. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's okay to do that. Sometimes people feel like there's like a deadline,
I know, like we're supposed to heal by a certain time, right?
Yeah.
No, people, no, it's a lifelong journey in my view. Vickie, I think you've said the same thing, lifelong journey. The healing does change though and transform. And then I think one day it isn't so much about healing anymore. Like for me, it's not so much about healing. That's not to say there isn't stuff still that's painful and sorrowful. The other thing I want to just do a shout out, as we definitely are coming to the end of this, is that I think sometimes I mixed sorrow for other things that they weren't real. Like, I don't know, depression or something that really I don't have, but I do have sorrow within me that is definitely transforming. The more my life is guiding me to understand my experience differently from even like over a year ago. And that's what's cool about this. If you allow it to be an experience and everything it can teach you. And I know there's going to be people out there watching this or not watching this or listening to this that absolutely, Vickie, will never be where you and I have chosen to go. And that's okay too. There are people and resources that they can go to, hopefully, that can help them wherever they are at in their space.
But let's end on self-love and your resources, Vickie, what you most want to share with others. I'm going to have links to your
website, VickieMenendez.com, and healwithvickie.com. We'll have the proper link. I know there's a bit of a longer URL for that. I'll have a link to that. But you offer so much, so much, Vickie. And so if you want to just speak a little bit about what I would want to leave people with, and anything else you want to talk about that we may not have addressed here, is what are your thoughts on the importance of self-love in the healing process, and anything else you want to say, before you add your resources?
Yes. Self-care
Yes, healthcare. Yeah.
More than just like slathering on creams, taking the salt bath. It's all of that. It's also the meditation and the journaling. But one thing that I found that helped me more than anything was regulating my nervous system. Because especially like in my case, after losing 4 children and living a dysfunctional life when I grew up, and the time as far back as I can remember, I was in fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in fight or flight, then it's really difficult for you to do any healing work that's really down the anger in it.
Yeah.
So I found that the breath work, and I'm a certified breath work facilitator, that by regulating your nervous system, it makes your healing journey so much easier. And it's so much more, it presents so much deeper, and you just feel better, when you learn how to breathe optimally. Because we all breathe every day. That I didn't realize that until after I really started studying it. There's a lot of science behind breathing and how to breathe, when we breathe, and a lot of us breathe too much. And there's one study on there about like turtles and really big mammals. They breathe only, I think it's like 2 to 3 times a minute. Like, but it's that slow. Where a mouse breathes like 200 times a minute. They're like, like just frantically breathing, and they live no time. They might live 2 years. So the whole science behind us really slowing our breathing down. It's not like stopping breathing, but just being more resonant with our breathing, more rhythmic in our breathing. And most of us are like kind of frantic. We're here and we're there and we're like all agitated about things, and we're able just to stop. Even if it's every hour, you stop for 2 minutes and just give that rhythmic breathing now. You don't stop. You just do rhythmic breathing for 3 to 5 minutes. It can change your life. It can change your whole day going forward. And like going from one thing to another, you're going from one meeting to the next, or one situation or event to the next event. We do that intentionally, and we stop. We just take the time to take a breath. Then it's whatever, because the energy that we feel in different events are going to be different. We might come out of a charged conversation with somebody. We don't want to take that into something that doesn't deserve that. We might be going to Kim's birthday party. We don't want to be like, barreling in there with all of these emotions, swimming around in our heads and our body.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really taking that time to just pause.
Mm-hmm.
Pausing throughout the day can just change everything for you.
How important is it to, when you do an intake of a breath, to extend the stomach out? I forget what that breathing's called, where it's opposite. So you breathe in, tummy out, and when you breathe out, tummy in.
Yeah, that's diaphragmatic breathing. So when you breathe in, the way you can test it is you put your hand on your heart, you hand your stomach, take that breath in. You want your stomach to rise first.
Oh, okay.
So most people are breathing kind of into their chest when they're not breathing into the diaphragm. So as you start breathing in and out, and then when you breathe out, then your belly goes flat again. So we just tend not to breathe very well, like we breathe, but we don't breathe often when we call help.
Yeah.
And so if we can just stop, even if it's every few hours, just to take 3 to 5 minutes to just get in a rhythmic breathing, like 2 in, 4 out. Because when you're breathing in, your heart rate is rising a little bit. When you breathe out, your heart rate is going down. So you always want your breath out. You can do 4-4 too, like 4 in and 4 out. But if you're really trying to calm your nervous system down and you take them to the in or out, then you can get to doing 4 in, 8 out. Some people can get up to doing 12 out and then 30 seconds out. When you're doing 30 seconds out or 30 breaths out, you're breathing very slow to going out. And you can just feel your body just going.
And when you say like 10, 8, 30, are you talking about a count? Have the exhale be a count of that?
Right. And so you kind of build that up, and there's a breath hold time that you should always measure every day.
Okay.
And most of us can barely hold our breath for 1 second. Like, the best time to measure is first thing in your morning, and that's when you're going to have your worst breath all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sleeping at night, you're not awake, you're not aware of your breath, and sometimes your breath will get around it while you sleep. So take a few cleansing breaths in before you do your breath hold count.
Mm-hmm.
You take that breath in,
Mm-hmm.
and you hold your oats, and you see how long you can hold your breath before you you don't want to be gasping for air.
Right.
Breathe out without you like trying to catch your breath.
Yeah.
And that gives you an indication of how healthy your body is.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Those want to get that breath hold, that first breath hold time in the morning up to at least 40 seconds, and that's hard.
Yes.
Now, what we do in the breath hold times is our breath out hold creates an intermittent hypoxia within our body.
Mm-hmm.
So as the oxygen lowers in our body, the CO2, the carbon dioxide, rises. And so what that does is it pulls the oxygen from your blood and sends it to all of the organs and tissues of your body.
Right.
Our bodies are so intelligent that it will send the oxygen exactly where it needs it most.
Oh, cool. I love that.
Yeah, if you have, your liver is a little taxed, or, your kidneys or whatever, then that oxygen is going to be sent where it needs it the most.
Yeah.
That takes training to be able to do the breath out full times
Yes.
to create that intermittent hypoxia. They're intentionally, you wouldn't want to do that all day every day.
No.
But yeah, if you could really learn how to breathe properly and breathe so that it's actually helping your body to live better, that then you look forward to it. It's like, the breath work is like you feel better. You have more clarity. Like if you do your breath work in the morning, I always get mine out of the way and learning. I feel more clarity in my work during the day after that. And all of the things. And it helps to regulate my nervous system.
Yes.
When your nervous system's regulated, there's not a whole lot that gets you agitated.
Yes. Yes.
You're already like this, you're in fight or flight.
Yeah.
To like tip you over or to trigger you or to do anything like that. So if we can learn how to be anchored to our bodies and listen to our bodies, because our body is trying to tell us all the time. It whispers and it tells us rest. It tells us to do this, but what happens when you don't listen? Eventually you get sick. Yes, that's a possibility. You end up with some unmanageable disease.
Yes.
Heart disease, cancer, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because it kept ignoring what our body has been trying to tell us for years.
Yeah.
So it's checking in. It's doing the somatic check-in to our body. Every morning before I get up, I ask myself or ask my body, what do you need? And if it needs another hour of sleep and I don't have to get up, like there's some days that, you gotta get up. But there's other things that you can do if you have to get up in order to bring that energy back to your body. And one of those things is doing the breath work.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I was just thinking also, we're going to turn to your resources now. All of this part of self-care, the more you respect and care for your body, for what you've been through, so for your mind, your mental state, your same thing, your emotions, your spiritual journey, everything, it all is connected. And all of that, I think, just leads us to have profound respect for ourselves, for what we've been through a few years ago. Instead of being so hard on myself, which fight or flight will do, for those with PTSD, you just, flagellating the back and you should have, all this stuff's hard, punish, 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 punish. When you get rid of all that and you're too tired maybe to do it anymore, you're just not interested in being that hard on yourself anymore. This is where step by step, you just sort of merge everything into one. And I just honestly think it's for me, it's been the awareness of what I agreed to take on, and so proud of myself. Huge respect for those that have, taken on their stuff. So that's another piece, is just respect each other and all of us together for what we're taking on in this life. And you don't have to learn these lessons. I'm sure you agree, Vickie, that, you and I are taking on, and what we're learning and striving to, well, in my case, get as the best I can before I transition. It doesn't have to be big things, like you said, that happen to you. You can learn this just from choosing to, even if you're living a joyous life, make it more joyous, become compassionate, develop unconditional love for each other. And I tell you, all of this stuff, by the way, I do believe in domino effect. So our conversation, whoever it reaches, even just us and our energy that we're putting out to the world, boop, 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 it's been amazing talking with you. And again, I'm just so respectful of what you're doing. Would you like to leave the audience with your resources? Again, I'm going to have links to your websites, but you can certainly mention them, the work you do, and whatever else you want to leave the audience with, Vickie.
Was VickieMenendez.com. The Heal with Vickie, sometimes it's not always completely updated, so VickieMenendez.com will have everything there. And that's actually in the middle of an upgrade right now. But I have retreats that will be starting next year, and what I call the Christmas journey, which is, it's a path. It's starting out, meeting the point where they are, because everybody is in a different place in your journey.
Yeah.
So I assess from day one, I assess where they are in your journey, and you start from there. And then I have groups and that kind of thing, that I really find that one-on-one work is probably the fastest, more direct path. People can move feeling better. I was working with a woman that lost her daughter 15 years ago, and her death day was always the worst day time of every year. And so we met on her daughter's death day. I have more support for her. And she came back. She always puts flowers and the lilies on the crash site of her daughter.
Okay.
When she came on our call, she had this likeness of her, which is awesome. And so when I asked her how the day went, she said, it was different this snow.
Mm-hmm.
And she was able to go in, but just feeling just warmth and love for her daughter, rather than just loss with this emptiness. She learned how to get more connected to her, and how she could change the definition of that.
Mm-hmm.
You can make it whatever we want to be. So she decided that it was so much better for her to think of her daughter as just love and light, rather than loss, because that's not going to change. She's not going to all of a sudden see your daughter standing there, but she can change the relationship she has with that loss. Take that of a warmth. I always told her, when they tugging at your heart, which would typically take me down a spiral. Yes. Think of that as a visit. Them just tell me just to tap on your heart a little bit and say, hey, Mom, I'm here.
Yes. Oh my God. I did a week-long mediumship with James Von Prague. And I just wish people could really understand. First of all, anybody can be a medium, I'll tell you that. But they're lined up to get their messages across. They really are. And I chose not to make that a focus of my work. I work more with the angel realm. But nevertheless, it was a really cool experience to channel for a week people, like be a medium of people. But the energy was a little too heavy for me. So I was like, no, maybe not, guys. Like, anyway, but all of us, there were 100 of us, we all channeled for each other for 5 days. And everybody was absolutely bang on right about who was coming through. There were no mistakes. So they are, energy, just trying to communicate with their loved ones to let them basically know they're okay. And I know this is a cliche and all of it, but it really, frankly, is true. And, so I just, again, I just really encourage people to be open to that energy. And the more that you can open yourself up, the easier it is for them to leave you a little feather. Or, I think you wrote about a jolt in your heart, and I had that as well in 2006, that jolt right in the heart, like as a sign from my daughter way back when I was training to be an angel therapy practitioner. And I really, and her sign, just to let me know, and the perfume all around me, just to let me know I'm here, you're on track. One thing I did want to just end with, on the note of the angel anniversary, I call it angel anniversary. A few years ago, I started to celebrate our soul contract on that day. So again, making it about us together. And that was the date that was chosen, also on her birthday. So I don't forget myself in the process here about what I've taken on. And then sometimes I joke a little bit and kind of go, to my daughter, okay, this time you're the one that exited. I'm the one that you stayed behind. And, who got the better deal here? But, make it a bit of fun. And but that is not to overshadow or take away from as you've talked about throughout our whole time together, in and out. You have to take the steps. You have to face the pain. You have to deal with it. You have to, if you get it, face your truth if you want to expand upon it and really become the person we're meant to be on this planet. That's how I'm going to leave this one, Vickie. Did I cover everything with you?
I think so.
This is amazing, right? Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. Thank you so much for, in advance, for everybody, your story and your wisdom is going to touch. And, just meeting you has been wonderful. So, thank you for becoming part of my podcast community, Vickie.
Thank you for inviting me. Really enjoy our time together today.
Me too.